Once upon a time, in a beautiful village, there lived two lovers, Okori and Olamma. They loved each other so much as if they couldn't breathe without each other. Okori was a hardworking farmer and he did so well for himself financially. Many maidens admired him and also envied Olamma for having such a hardworking and responsible young man love her. One day, Okori told Olamma that he was ready to come see her father to ask for her hand in marriage. And Olamma was so excited because she had waited so long for the day Okori would finally come ask for her hand in marriage. A few days later, Okori came to Olamma's house to let his intentions known and he was accepted. Weeks later, Okori and Olamma were properly married and Olamma moved into Okori's house as his beloved wife. One day, Okori was coming back from the farm when he saw a maiden being molested by a man called Obinze. Obinze was a troublemaker who always constituted nuisance in the village. People were scared of him because Obinze's father was a powerful and wicked chief priest in the village. Okori approached Obinze with a frown and told him to let the maiden go. Obinze faced Okori with a frown too. He asked Okori who gave him the audacity to interrupt him. Without waiting for a response, he told Okori to get out of his sight, but Okori didn't move an inch. Okori looked at the maiden who was crying and obviously scared. He told her to go. The maiden made to leave, but Obinze threatened to deal with her entire family if she moved an inch. The maiden, feeling so scared of Obinze, didn't move an inch. This got Okori really angry. He pushed Obinze and immediately a severe fight followed. To Obinze's greatest shock, Okori beat him in the fight. Okori didn't stop until he was sure that he had inflicted an injury on Obinze. Obinze ran away in pains. Later that day, in the evening, Obinze and his father Ezenwa came to Okori's house to confront him. Ezenwa told Okori that he must bring 5 goats and 10 chickens for the injury he inflicted on his son. But Okori told him that he would not bring even the smallest tuber of yam. He told Ezenwa that Obinze behaved badly like his father, because only a bad father would have no problem with his son molesting maidens and causing trouble in the village. Ezenwa told Okori that he had the grace of 7 days to provide what he had asked, or else he would face the consequences. But Okori tapped his chest and said he was not scared of him and told him to leave his compound and never come back. Olamma, who was in the kitchen hearing the voices, came out to see what was happening. Seeing that it was Ezenwa whom her husband was yelling at, she became worried because she knew Ezenwa was full of evil. She was 5 months pregnant and the thought of losing her husband scared her. She tried to calm her husband down and also apologized to Ezenwa on his behalf. But Ezenwa said before he would forgive Okori, he must bring 5 goats and 10 chickens in 7 days. If not, there would be consequences. And with that, he left. Olamma was worried. She pleaded with her husband to calm down, reminding him of how evil Ezenwa was. But Okori tapped his chest and said he was not scared of him, that Obinze got what he deserved for all the troubles he had been causing in the village. 7 days passed, and Okori didn't buy the things Ezenwa asked for. Olamma had pleaded with him to just do it. At least he had the money to get the items. But Okori stood his ground that he would not do it, that he was waiting for Ezinwa to do his worst. The day after the seventh day, Okori returned home from the farm tired. As usual, Olamma served him his food, and without hesitating, he began eating. Olamma left and returned with a cup of water for him to drink, but as she was about to place the cup down, it fell from her hand and the water poured. To her surprise, Okori asked if she was stupid. His voice was so serious. Okori had never spoken to her in such a tone. She looked at him, wondering what had come over him. He looked at her back with so much seriousness. She asked him why he was angry over such a little thing. That was not the first time, nor the second time a cup of water slipped from her hand. And when it happened, Okori would make sure she didn't hurt herself and would even clean up the water for her because she was pregnant. But that day was different, and Olamma wondered what had changed. As if calling her stupid was not enough, Okori called her good for nothing and told her to hurry and clean up the water before he loses his temper. But Olamma was too surprised to move. She kept looking at her husband. Then she asked him what had come over him. But to her greatest shock, her question was answered with a hard, unexpected slap on her face. She held her face in shock, still looking at him as tears ran down her eyes. She asked Okori again what had come over him, and this time around, her question was answered with serious beating. She screamed and cried, but Okori didn't stop hitting her until he was tired, and then he left the house. Olamma saw that she was bleeding, and she cried even more because she had lost her baby. That day was the beginning of Olamma's sorrows. She had never imagined that Okori, the man who always told her how much he loved her and carried her like an egg, would one day cause her so much pain. He didn't even care if she lost the baby or not. The same baby he was excited for and could not wait for the day he would hear its cry. Okori hit her at even the slightest provocation. He stopped providing food in the house. Instead of going out to work, he would go about the village causing trouble and molesting maidens in the village. Every day, people came to the house to tell Olamma to warn her husband, and Olamma would cry because she was very helpless. They had no idea that whatever he had done to them, he had done more to her. But because he was her husband, all she did was cry and pray for him to change. One day, Olamma got an advice from her consigned neighbor to visit a priestess to know if Okori's sudden behavior was spiritual. Olamma took the advice and visited a priestess. The priestess told her that her husband had an issue with someone and that person was responsible for his sudden change. It was at this moment that Olamma remembered Ezinwa's threats. She broke down in tears and told the priestess everything that had happened between her husband and Ezinwa. When she was done talking, the priestess told her that a charm was buried in her husband's farmland and only her husband could destroy the charm. Olamma pleaded with the priestess to help her. She said that her husband had not stepped his feet on the farmland since the day he suddenly changed. He even stopped providing since that day, and that he only went about the village causing trouble. She confessed that she had become scared of her husband and didn't know how to convince him without him getting angry and hitting her. Well, the priestess told her that she didn't know how to help with that. She said she had done her part by telling her the cause of her husband's sudden change, and that it was up to Olamma to figure out how to convince her husband to go to the farm, look for the charm, and burn it himself. Olama returned home, thinking of how to convince her husband to go to the farm and search for the spot the charm was buried. She thought hard till she fell asleep. Moments later, she woke up to her husband tapping her. She saw that the day was getting dark, and Olama realized she had slept till evening. Okori ordered her to go get food for him, and she immediately brought him some of the food she had prepared in the morning. She sat quietly in the room, secretly stealing glances at him as he ate. She wanted to talk, but she was scared of getting him angry. She made to steal another glance at him, but she met his eyes. He had noticed that she was stealing glances at him. With her hands trembling, she told him that she went to see a priestess. She paused, waiting for him to ask her why, but he didn't. He only stared at her as if he was running out of patience. She swallowed her saliva and continued. She told him that the priestess said Ezinwa buried a charm in his farmland to ruin him. Okori stood up in anger, and Olama thought he wanted to hit her again. So she went on her knees crying, but to her surprise, he didn't hit her. She heard him say he would go to Ezinwa's house and teach him a lesson. Immediately, Olama held him, pleading that the only way to teach Ezinwa a lesson was to look for the spot the charm was buried and burn it. Thankfully, he listened to her. That evening, he took his hoe and went to the farm, accompanied by Olama. He dug every spot on the land until he got to a spot where he dug out the charm. Olama had carried some matchsticks, so she handed it to him and immediately he set the charm ablaze. Okori turned to Olama and he almost did not recognize her. She had scars on her body and she looked so sad. His once beautiful and ever smiling Olama looked like the shadow of herself. He called her name in a very calm tone, and Olama broke down in tears. From his tone, she knew her husband had come back to his senses, so she cried tears of joy. She moved closer to him and hugged him while he consoled her, crying as well. The next day, news went round the village that Ezinwa was dead, and the villagers were happy about it. Days later, the villagers went about their daily routine without fear of anyone troubling them.